July 9th, 2022. Yeah, I want to discuss the economy in this particular video. Today, of course, or yesterday, excuse me, there was a release of the jobs number. There's 372,000 jobs were created, and the unemployment rate stayed at a low number of 3.6%, which, of course, the Biden administration is using to try to portray that we are in a good economic situation. Of course, on top of that, of course, you have the issue that we still are in very high inflation and interest rates are going up with the Fed tightening policy. And the first quarter GDP was down 1.6% annualized. So that indicates that seems to be the beginning of a recession. Of course, this seems somewhat paradoxical. And I will try to explain what's going on here, I think, and try to put this in a bit of context. Everybody, if you like these videos, please subscribe. We need more subscribers. Give me a like if you like this video, and the comments appreciate it. And you can forward links to friends also. That would be a good way to get more people seeing them. Okay, so it sounds like the economy is good, except that this is after a negative quarter, and we don't know what this quarter is going to be. We'll get that answer later toward the end of the month, the second quarter initial GDP estimate. So that leaves us with kind of a question here of exactly what is going on with the economy. Okay, I think the way to look at this is the following: is the other thing that's known is that there's like over 10 million, I think it's like 11 million jobs that are open and that are unfilled. So the paradox is resolved in the following way. What you have going on here is that on the one hand, you have jobs being filled because even though the economy is contracting, or at least is static, we're not sure whether it's going to really be a recession officially yet, or whether it's going to kind of oscillate around growth and no growth. But what happens is there's still plenty of jobs out there, even if, let's say, 5 million jobs were eliminated. We're still having a lot of openings available that where people are available to take the jobs. And of course, we're looking at the month of June, and what do we have? Well, we have all the new graduates coming out of high schools and colleges, right? And we're dealing with people here that, for the most part, never benefited from all the enhanced unemployment benefits that were thrown out during the COVID period. And so these people are probably much more willing and ready to go to work than maybe some of the other people, particularly in the lower end jobs, where they were getting paid a lot more on unemployment than they'd ever been paid when they were working. And I think that's one of the things that kind of has messed up the economy. The other thing that reduced the job level is the fact that of course, a lot of people that were nearing retirement when their job went away just went ahead and retired and didn't go back to work. And so they were maybe eligible for Social Security, and although they normally would have wanted to stay to 66 or 60 or thereabouts to take it, or even longer, they're 62, they're going to have to take it anyhow now. And so they never went back to work. And I think that's kind of what we have in the economy. So while Biden is trying to look at these as good numbers, and from one point of view they are, what you're going to see, I think, later in the month also when the Fed meets is another interest rate increase, because they're still fighting inflation, which is still at a high rate. You got the gas prices, which have come down a little bit from the peak, but they're still very high compared to the normal things. In addition to things like natural gas is high, and that's good. You're going to see that showing up in higher utility rates for your electricity and so forth. So I think in general the economy is going to be weakening as we go forward in the year rather than strengthening. But nevertheless, it is it's going to look somewhat paradoxical. And of course, as we've seen, the stock market and therefore people's 401ks have been going down for the most part during this period, all the first half of the year, very negative. Anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts on the economy. Other issues of interest I will mention briefly here is it got some notoriety is the the arrest of this Jose Alba, who was in a bodega, I guess, in New York, and was attacked by a ex-con, convicted felon, I believe, and while being knocked around, managed to get a hold of a knife and defend himself with the knife and stabbed the guy, hit him in the throat, I guess, in the chest, and the guy ended up dying. And now this Soros-funded ultra left-wing prosecutor they've got in New York now charges this guy with second-degree murder off the bat, and they set a bail at $250,000. Fortunately, I guess with a little public pressure, the judge has now reduced it to $50,000. Between his family and his employer, they've been able to make bail and got him out of the jail pending trial. And hopefully his charges will eventually be dropped because it's asinine. This was clearly self-defense. But this just shows you what happens when you have a Soros-funded prosecutor in your town. They really are on the side of the criminal, not the law-abiding citizen. So that's another little issue that we have to kind of deal with, I guess. And that's a lesson that we need to get the word out that if anybody is a Soros-funded candidate for a district attorney or state's attorney, whatever they call it in your locality, vote against them because they're no good. And I guess the other thing I want to mention here, which is kind of a sad news, is that former Prime Minister Abe, I guess his name is, Abe of Japan, basically was assassinated apparently with some kind of a homemade, kind of a zip gun apparently, with some guy in Japan, a really freak event over there. And that's kind of a sad development because he was a very good leader of Japan and was a good ally of the United States and our interests. And I think he was actually looking forward to Japan actually taking on a more leadership role in its own defense and relying less on the U.S. to carry everything for them like had been the case for a while. And that's just a sad thing that happened, but I guess they're nuts everywhere. So anyhow, yeah, that's kind of what I want to hit for now, and we'll wrap this up until next time. And by the way, the addresses of my various social media accounts are there. You can follow me on Twitter or these other accounts. I do post more frequently on Twitter, largely because I have more interaction with people there. But at any rate, but the others are good too. You're certainly Gab. I have interaction there, and I've been on there for several years too. And of course the Parler, which is to me it really was damaged heavily by the big tech when they tried to shut them down, and of course the newer Gettr and of course Truth Social, the Trump site. Okay, so I'll be wrapping this up for now. Until next time.